Ladies and gentlemen, I feel very honored to speak to you today of climate change in Düsseldorf. And I'm pleased to share our role as climate twin of Toulouse in the European project Life Green Heart. In Düsseldorf, we have to face with three effects of climate change. Firstly, rising temperatures and heat, and secondly, heavy rainfall, and thirdly, modified rainfall patterns and drought. We analyzed the above-mentioned effects in detail. The most important result shows that Toulouse is the climate twin of Düsseldorf. Our climate projections indicate that our future climate at the end of the century will be comparative with the climate of Toulouse today. Therefore, we are convinced that we can learn a lot from the city of Toulouse. But right now, climate change is already visible in Düsseldorf. For example, in our phenological garden, here 32 selected plant species are observed daily, and among other things, the beginning of flowering, full flowering, the end of the flowering, and leaf fall are documented. From these documented data, we construct a phenological year, which is presented as phenological clock. This clock shows us what the winter has already shortened by 20 days in Düsseldorf between 1991 and 2020, compared to the climate period from 1961 to 1990. We have studied the impact of these climate changes. We see this most clearly in our vegetation, on our trees and in our parks, which suffer a lot from the drought. The shed-nast, for example, will in future be completely removed as a city tree and must be replaced by heat-resistant species. In response to climate change, we drew up a climate adaptation concept back in 2007. The core of the concept are 15 key measures that we consider urgent for climate adaptation in Düsseldorf. These include analytical key measures such as climate analysis. This instrument will enable us to take better account of climate concerns in urban planning. Furthermore, we have ecological key measures such as climate-adapted concepts for our urban trees and urban forest and plants for shading and cooling public areas. For example, we want to implement the Tiers Forêt project from a city close to Paris in Düsseldorf. To do this, we will unseal a parking lot and create a cooler and relaxing place by planting trees. Finally, there are communicative key measures such as advisory services for citizens. I now come to our collaboration with Toulouse in the Life Green Heart project. This year and in 2024, we are jointly running a photo competition on the climate adaptation in Toulouse and Düsseldorf. In this way, we would like to make the population aware of the topic of climate adaptation. By the coming years, 2022 and 2023, workshops and webinars on specific topics of climate adaptation are planned in Toulouse and in Düsseldorf. In the cooperation with our climate twin Toulouse, we benefit above all from the experience of Life Green Heart for the implementation of our key measures. For example, one of our key measures is monitoring. Firstly, the monitoring of climate changes such as temperature and rainfall. Secondly, the monitoring of impacts of climate changes, for example, by surveys of plants and animals. And thirdly, the monitoring of our measures such as renaturation of waters or unsealing of surfaces in urban areas. Life Green Heart conducts studies in all three fields. We want to use the findings from Toulouse for our monitoring. For example, we can learn from Life Green Heart to take social aspects into account in our monitoring. Another key measure is the shading and cooling of public spaces. Here we have been looking at France and Toulouse for a long time. And there we discovered systems like brumisateur. We have already brought this idea to Düsseldorf, and now Düsseldorf is the first German city with the French brumisateur. However, in Life Green Heart, there are more ideas for shading and cooling. For example, green shadow structures such as arcades, which we also want to implement in Düsseldorf. Finally, it is important for me to emphasize that we can and we should learn a lot from each other with regard to climate adaptation. I wish you a continued successful conference and thank you for your attention.